Today we're here to cover the pronunciation for the Korean alphabet. As I've said, this is letter G. Many people will tell you, and many teachers will tell you this is the letter G in Korean, but sometimes it appears as a K. We're gonna learn in what instances it becomes like that. And this is a D, but sometimes it can appear as a T. This is an R slash L. When is it an R? When is it an L? That's what we're gonna learn today. Korean has these pronunciation rules which say when you read it here, it's a G. When you read it here, it's a K. Korean pronunciation rules is divided. We are going to divide this into 6 phases. Initial consonant pronunciation, final consonant pronunciation, Batchim with sound changes, special Batchim pronunciation rules, and then pronunciation of the RL sound rules, consonant assimilation, extended sound rules. And then we're going to do a summary. In the first part, if you have any questions, please ask. You're not prevented from asking questions in the free lecture. Free doesn't mean you can't ask. Unaweza uliza. Kenchanayo. Ama mimi najiongelesha tu hapo. Okay. Unaweza kuwa unajua. Kenchanayo means is that okay? Iko sawa. Hiyo iko sawa. When I ask Kenchanayo, just give me a bit of feedback, Kenchanayo, so that I feel like I'm not talking to myself. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
괜찮아.
Oh, 괜찮아. Okay, 좋습니다. Okay, so let's do this. Korean pronunciation rules. This lesson is also very key in addition to the original one where we studied the Korean alphabet. Now, the pronunciation of Korean consonants changes depending on the position within a syllable. It sounds like I'm just reading that, but I'll just give it examples. For example, we have this word right here. This is how you say, you guys know, like a backpack, right? A backpack in Korean is kabang with like a K-like sound. We don't say gabang with a G sound. Have you guys ever wondered why that is? It's spelled with a G. I'll tell you this is a G. Every instructor in Korean, they'll be like, oh, what is that sound? Kusanga moya. And then they'll be like, that's the G sound. And then when you come here, it's also you say gabang. You're tempted to say gabang. But I'm telling you, it's actually kabang with a K. Why is that? It's because when this G is in the initial consonant position, it takes on the more emphasized sound. So here we will pronounce it as kabang, not gabang, not with a G, not gabang. It will be kabang. Okay. So it will sound more like, let me write these in Korean characters to show you what a K actually looks like in Korean characters. This is what it looks like. If I were to write this in Korean characters, kabang would look actually like this. But we're not in Korean, we don't spell this like this. We spell it like this. This is a proper spelling. So you'll have the proper spelling, and then when I put something in these brackets, that's how it's actually spelled. Just to, what's it called? Just to not confuse you guys. When I put it in brackets, let's say I'll add the color purple. Let me add the color purple. So these are the pronunciation rules. You have this, it actually sounds like K rather than G in the initial consonant position. In the middle of the word, it still sounds like a G. Let me be clear. But at the beginning, it sounds more like a K than a G. Okay? Now, this initial consonant rule applies to these ones, these letters in the Korean alphabet, the G, the Kyop, the G, Piop, Tiot, Lier, and then okay? So it's like this D. It sounds more like a T rather than a D in many words when it's an initial consonant. So for example, dal. Then this is not dal. This is not dal. This is dal. Andal. Andal, Johnny. Two dal. No. Thai. In an initial consonant, when it's an initial consonant, it's actually a T, more like T sounding rather than D sounding. If I'm making sense, say okay. If I'm not making sense, please ask questions during the free lecture, okay? We go to Pio.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Shinami,
Yeah, I have a question.
ask away.
So for the K consonant, which
Yes,
sounds like a G,
yeah.
also when like you're saying the last name, if your
Mm-hmm.
last name was Kim, you say Kim or you say Gim?
Now, Shinami, you've asked a very good question. Let me say this. In Korean, how do they spell the name Kim? Let me write this down. Oh, this is a good one. Ironically, this is how you spell Kim in Korean. This actually gives legitimacy to what I'm saying. Yorobun, what is this letter? This first letter here. What is this? Like a curved seven. Anyone?
G.
That's a G. Yet in Korean, when you ask somebody for their surname, the half of the country is like Kim. Yet this is a G. So what's up with that? With G, I'll explain it simply. With G, many a times when you see it in the initial consonant position, as in it starts the actual word, it is pronounced more like a K rather than a G. But if we have like a K, if it's a K that spells the word, then you definitely pronounce it as a K. One example is our country, Kenya. Okay, from those for those from Tanzania, okay, like if we write okay, then it's not our country, but let's say we're all brothers. Okay, here we have Kenya. Kenya is spelled like this in Korean. Kenya, let me let people in. Kenya is spelled like this in Korean with a K. So there's no ambiguity as to whether we pronounce it with a K or a G. We just pronounce it with a K. The other thing is somebody may ask if this can be pronounced as a K and it's a G slash K. Can we write the our country's name Kenya with a G? No, we cannot. You cannot do that. It's a hard K. So Kenya with a K. K. Kenya. Now, here we have Kabang. This is a G. I don't pronounce it as Gabang. I'm pronouncing it as Kabang with a K. Kabang means backpack, mfuko. Hii mfuko yenye watoto waenda nayo shule. Ama some of you in university, Kabang. Okay, I also go with a Kabang to work. Okay, and then the surname Kim. It's not written with a K. It's actually written with a G. Okay, Kim. Kenya, though, with a hard K. Shinami, does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank
Now, this initial consonant rule applies to very many of these Korean, I think, words in the Korean alphabet. So that also happens to D. But does that mean now if you have the name Tony, you use a D? No, that does not mean. It doesn't apply to English words, just the Korean one. Now, next good example we have here is here. This tends to sound as like a P rather than a B in the initial consonant position. So you usually end up with the two B's in this one. You write pop instead of BAB, it's not Bab, it's Pap. 밥을 먹어요. 밥 먹었어. In K-dramas, you hear a lot of that. 밥 먹었어. 밥 먹었어. 밥 먹었어. Pap is food in Korean, or it can also mean rice. It mean both. You know, Koreans eat rice so often, maybe it's considered normal to do that. When I lived there, oh man, I think I had rice for every meal, including breakfast, every meal. But it's not usually a huge portion. I know, like in Kenya, half your dish, half your plate will have rice. In Korea, the portion is very small. It's like the size of this wallet, like a small bowl that holds like this amount of rice. They don't serve a lot of rice. If you watch K-dramas, you'll see that. So next we have this J sound. It sounds like a CH sound, a ch sound rather than a J sound. So this JA is cha. It's not ja, it's cha. Or when you say the name for I, cho. It's now many students when I tell them to, like, for example, what is my name? We have Cho. I. So like for example, if I want to say introduce myself, I would be like 저는 마인기 예요 or 저는 마인기입니다, right? This is Cho. But many students are like, okay, when Sun Senim was teaching me this, he said this is J. So I'll pronounce it like a J. I'm like, no, this is Cho. 저는. So you're supposed to say 저는 마인기입니다. 저는 샤론입니다. 저는 아슐리입니다. 저는 김태리입니다. 저는 시나미입니다. 저는 아니타입니다. 리네트입니다. 난시입니다. 완보입니다. 어드리입니다. 아이샤입니다. 저는, not 저는. Many students are tempted to say 저는. You hear that a lot and it's like, no, it's not 저는. Now, this leer sounds like an R, a flapped R. Now, what do I explain? Like, instead of saying a flapped R, I say a rolled R. What do I mean by rolled R? You've heard of our Tanzanian brothers speak Swahili. They roll their L's. It's like a rolled L slash R. So like instead of saying hela, in Kenyan Swahili, we don't roll our L's and R. They say hena. Now, this kind of sounds like that. A rolled R. It's not ladio with an L. It's not radio with an with a hard R. It's radio, radio, not radio, not ladio. It's somewhere in between that. And then we have this one. This O-looking character in Korean is silent when it's at the beginning of a syllable and only takes on the sound of the vowel that comes after it. So if you read this silent and then it would just read as a. For example, if we write Ashley's name, oh no, Ashley's name doesn't even have an a in Korean. It's they use American pronunciation. So you would use the letter S, so it'd be more like Ashley. Let me look at this. Annie. It might be Annie. Anita. Maybe Anita would have this ah. Let me see. Audrey. Audrey's name will probably have this Ah, I'd have to look into it. No, no, no. Amani. There's somebody here who's Amani. Amani, the first syllabic block in your name would start like this. Ah, the silent. This is silent. This has no sound. But if it goes below these two, the first consonant and vowel, it could have the sound, the ng sound. I should kind of cover that more. I don't know if I'll confuse you guys, but like, let's look at something. I usually ask my students to think about how do we spell the town Ngong in Korean? It's tricky. Or the name Nganga. It's usually something you have to think about. In Korean, if you want to write Ngong, you would write it like this, Ngong. Why? In order to first get that first ng sound we have in Ngong, then to that you can say Ngong. This circular thing has to go below. So what do we have here? This first circle here is actually silent. It comes before a vowel in this syllabic block. Therefore, it is silent. It has no sound value. So we can use it to push this other circle down. So the first ng is actually pronounced here. And then we have G, G, and then O, and then ng. Ngong, or like a name like Nganga. Like there's a Kenyan name Nganga, and it's not Nganga. Okay, after the class. Oh, okay, so now in the Kamba region, this name is more like Nganga. In central Kenya, this is more like Nganga. How do you write Nganga in Korean? It's pretty simple. You have to, I mean, I need a green keyboard. My computer cannot do that no more. So you have, okay, let me show you guys something. So let's just do an exercise. This is how you write nganga in Korean, but I need to know that you guys can tell the difference between which one has the ng sound, which one doesn't. Let's look at this very first circular character. Does it have any sound value in nganga's name? Anyone? 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 Sharon?
What did you ask?
I asked now, which one of these ones? There are these circular characters in Korean. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
silent, sometimes it has the ng sound. Which of these has the ng sound? Which one is silent?
Okay. For me, I'll read it as in,
Mm-hmm.
like the yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nganga.
But then this, but this one has no sound value. I know this, you're reading it as
Yeah, it will
ng,
be difficult to read it.
because of the but let's nganga, nganga, nga.
Mm,
This is the only way to write nganga. There's literally no other way. She's reading it as because of this line looking character, the one that goes across.
yeah.
That one has an sound, in Korean. Combine that with the ng, it becomes But in Kenya, we could sort of kind of ignore that and just read it as kind of like nganga, okay? Ngong doesn't have the same problem, not necessarily, but it's not ngong. Could Koreans read this as ngong? Oh, they could. Ngong instead of ngong. But still, it's the easiest way for them to write something like ngong in the Korean alphabet. Now, if this old-looking character precedes a vowel in a syllabic block, it has no sound value. If it comes after that, it does have a sound value. Are we okay up until there? Okay, yes, you're okay. Then let's go. Number two, final consonant pronunciation. Now, in Korean, we have what we call batchims in Korean. Now, what you would ask, what is a batchim? Now, this guy is like introduced Korean to us the other day and he's talking about batchims. Now, a batchim is the final consonant in a word, in a Korean word. Now, some words do not have what we call a final consonant. What do I mean? Like if I look at your names, let me go up here. I'm looking at some of your names, and for example, just off the top of my head, you have Sharon's name. Sharon's name ends with a n, which means it does have what we call a batim. Berita's name doesn't have Berita's name has a H at the end of it. But realistically in Korean, do we pronounce that H? No, we don't. Therefore, we say it doesn't have a bachim. Okay? Now, for example, let me write some of your names. Let me write some of your names so that we can give you guys examples for what we're talking about. For example, we have Sharon. I'm just gonna write your name in Korean. I know I haven't taught some of you guys how to do this, but your name would appear like this. It has an N here at the end. And for example, and next we have Berita. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Berita. Now, I want you guys to look at this. What's the difference between Sharon's name and Berita's name?
Mine
Sharon?
is too long.
No, no, no. Yours has three syllables. Berita.
Yeah.
Sharon's name only has two syllables. Sharon.
Oh yeah, now I get it.
What is the other difference you guys see in this? Somebody's wrote the H in Sharon is missing. Now, Audrey says the H in Sharon is missing. Now, let me also highlight something. In Korean, you can have the S can actually produce a sh sound provided it is combined with certain letters, certain vowels. If I combine, I usually send this to let me share this on the WhatsApp group. Now, have you guys seen the S and SH on the WhatsApp group? Now, if we combine, have you guys seen it on the WhatsApp group? I've sent an image. For those not on the WhatsApp group, you can just go to to our Instagram, click the free WhatsApp group, free lecture, whatever thing. Now, so let's look at this. When the letter S combines with A, it actually produces a sa sound. Where? A sa sound. Please don't laugh. A sa. So S plus A, sa. But if we combine S with YA, with the one with the double strokes on the right side, it becomes Sha. So we can actually write Sharon in Korean. If we combine S with O, it becomes Sa. S with Ya, Sho. Okay. S with O, So. S with Yo, Sho. Like, for example, you have names like mine. I don't know if you guys know my middle name. My middle name is Musyoka. In Korean, I technically cannot write Musyoka without having that sh sound. So it would be Mushoka. It cannot be Musyoka. Musho. Okay. Now we have U. S with U it's pronounced as Su. S with YU Shu. S with S. S with E She. Okay. Mioshiel. She S and I combined. She is like, what time is it? Mioshiel. What time is it? She is time, or it can be hours, depending on. I won't dive into it. S with se. S with ye, she. S with again, se. S with we, o and e, sway. But S with u, e, shui, she. So this is how you combine to produce those sounds. So Sharon's name right here does not need an extra H. And one other thing I need to remind everyone here, in Korean, we write names as you would pronounce them, not how they look. English does very fancy things. Like, for example, when we talk about hour, we don't even pronounce the H, yet it's there. Why? Why would you do that? It makes no sense. In Korean does not have that. In Korean, you pronounce things as you would write them. That's why even in Berita's name, we haven't added the H in Korean. It wouldn't make sense. Berita. No, in Korean, that wouldn't make sense. So we removed the H. Okay, 여러분. But I wanted you guys to notice one thing. Sharon's name right here ends with what? Does it end with a consonant or a vowel? Let me write a bunch of names.
Wow.
What does it end with?
A consonant.
A consonant. It ends with a consonant, the consonant N. Therefore, Sharon's name actually does have what we call a Batchim. What is a Batchim? Here we have Ro. No. R-O. Ini R-O alafu N imeingia chini yake. E N imeingia hapa chini yake. We have the R-O and then an N right below the R and on the O. In this syllabic block has three letters, right? R, O, and N fitting into one syllabic block. Now, because this syllabic block has these three letters and this syllabic block has this final consonant. This final consonant in Korean is what we call a batchim. Now, you guys know how in English we talk a lot about particles. A man, a woman, an apple, an hour. Why is that? These particles depend on whether the first letter of a word starts with a vowel or a consonant. That's why it becomes a something, right? Yes, it becomes. So if we use you have to say something with a consonant. So a man, but an apple, right? An egg, a woman, an hour, right? We look at the very first letter of words. In Korean, they don't do that. In Korean, we look at the last letter. What does the word or the name or the noun end with? Sharon ends with a consonant. Berita's name does not end with a consonant. It ends with the vowel a in Korean. Gabby's name ends with e in Korean. It doesn't matter whether it's spelled with y in English, it ends with the e in Korean. Therefore, Gabby's name has no consonant. It has no batim. Ashley's name. Ashley's name also ends with an E. Terry's name also ends with an E. Amani's name ends with an E. Tyler's name, Tyler, and actually still ends with an O sound in Korean, which is still a vowel. Anita ends with an a vowel. Annie ends with an E, which is still a vowel. Natasha, a vowel. SP, E vowel. Wambui, E vowel. Nancy, still with an E vowel. Orangeri with an E, which is still a vowel. In fact, out of all these names, no one's name has a batchim. Only Sharon's name has a batchim in Korean. So the way Sharon would kind of construct her sentence to introduce herself would be sort of different. If Sharon is introducing herself, she would say, Sharon, 저는 Sharon, 이에요. But the rest of you would say your name, 예요. 저는 가비예요. 저는 베리타예요. I am Berita. I am Gabby. I am Ashley. 저는 Ashley예요. 저는 제리예요. 저는 테리예요. 저는 아니타예요. 저는 애니예요. 저는 나타샤예요. 저는 로하나예요. I'm a 마시예요. 저는 셰나미예요. Right. Now the other place, so we usually need to know what a bachim is very early on in Korean. We like teaching students that very early on. Now let me go back to this list. Is it this one? Let me see. Okay, now that's what we call a bachim. Sharon's name is the only one here which has a bachim. Now, Korean syllables may end with the final consonant known as a batchim. So Sharon's name definitely has the final consonant, n, which is a batchim. Final consonants are not aspirated and sound weaker than their initial version. When a syllable ending consonant is followed by a vowel initial syllable, the consonant carries over to the next syllable. I'll explain later what that is. Now, for example, we have the pronunciation of these individual Batchim letters. So we have Kyo, Kyok, and Sankyo. Wait a minute. So these are all pronounced as sort of like a K. Like, for example, like a G, actually. Puo. It's a softer sound, sort of like a G. Think of it more like a G type pronunciation. Okay. So, for example, puak ni jiko. In Swahili, jiko. In English, kitchen. Okay. So poor. But when we pronounce them, they all take on the sound G, softer sound kind of. So poor. And then we have D, T, S, double sang, sio, J, C, H, H. Now this is gonna be a bit more complex. In Korean, when you're being taught, you're usually told this is an N, A, and this is a J below here. So this word actually means daytime, like mchana in Swahili, daytime. Mchana, usiku. This is mchana, during the day. Now we have N, A, and J. Now, so most students are tempted to read this as Naj. They'll be like, oh, Naj. Oh, then a Korean teacher will be like, what is Naj? This is actually pronounced as Nat, Nat. Are you guys hearing the soft T? Nat. Not na, not naj. It's nat. Can you guys hear it? Can you guys hear the soft T? Actually, it's nat,
Yes.
nat, not nad. Not naj, not nad. Nat, nat. I pronounce this J in the Batchim position as a soft. Okay. So all these letters, this is what that happens to all of them when they're in the Batchim position. For example, this becomes mot, not most. Students are usually tempted to read this as mos. This is mot. And this one becomes ita, not ista. Ita. This double S is in the Batchim position. Therefore, it takes on a soft, becomes ita. Ita. Are we okay up until that point? Do we all know what a bachim is? Kind of. Have an idea of what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on. Now we have Pube and Pube. Yes. Let's see. Yes. Okay. SP says yes as well. Okay. Now this is pronounced as a P. E.g. pap. Notice even this one I usually just write it like this. So we have the initial B and then A and then B. So you have the initial consonant which you were told to pronounce as a P. You have the final consonant B. You're also told to pronounce as a P. So none of the B's are actually pronounced as a B. It's not a bab. It's not bab. It's not pab. It's pab. Pab. Haber mogol. Haber mogol. It only kind of appears as a B when we have a silent to move the B to. Otherwise, this is pap. This is up. Okay. Up. P is pronounced as P in this instance. It has no complication. Now, we have M, N, and Ng, and Lear. Now, M retains its sound M. no matter where, if it's in the Batchim position, this final consonant position, it retains its sound. So pam is at night. Kwa Kiswahili usiku. In Swahili it's usiku. Pam, night. Han can be one. Han can be the Korean people. Han can be many things. But han, the end does not change. Now notice here, this is a G. This is a This is a ng. How do you pronounce this? Anyway, how do you pronounce this? Shinami, Sharon, you wanna try?
Can you say Kang?
Yes, so this is pronounced as Kang. Why don't we pronounce it as Gang? Anyway, why don't we pronounce it as Gang? I want to say Gang.
Can you hear me?
Come again, Ashley? Why isn't it Gang? Gang with a G. It's Kang with a K.
Is it because it's a soft consonant? Like K is taken
Can you
into
hear
a,
me?
it's a soft consonant.
Yes, you can hear you. Okay, so Shinami says it's because it's a soft consonant. That's why we don't pronounce it as G, Gang. Ashley, do you have any input? Let's see the comments. Because it's in the beginning of the word. Yes, Audrey, because it's in the beginning of the word. It's an initial consonant. To keep it simple, this G is an initial consonant. We therefore cannot pronounce it as a G. It takes on an emphasized sound, a stronger sound actually. So it becomes K. Kang. So, Hangang. Does anybody know what Hangang is? Anybody who watches a lot of K-dramas would know what Hangang. What is Hangang? They have a lot of romantic scenes at this place. No, no, okay, never mind. So Hangang is the Han River, right? Nairobi Kang, Nairobi River. Tana Kang, Tana River. Nile Kang, Nile River. Kang is a river. Now, we have the last one here, Mal, M-A-L. Now, if this L is in the batching position, it does take on an L sound. I know sometimes we say this is an L, this can be an L sound, this can be an R. If this L is in this batching position, it takes on, what's it called? It takes on an L sound. It does not take on an R sound. You cannot pronounce this as mar. Mar. It's mar. Mal. A mal is like horse. Mal is also word. 한국말 잘해요. 한국말 잘해. Mal word. Okay, let's see. How can I join the WhatsApp group? Let me send you the link. One second. Yes, that's the link. I've sent it to you. Okay, so now you cannot pronounce this as mar. It's mar. 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 Okay, why? It appears in the batching position. Now, since you guys now know what a batchim is, now I can say, oh, it appears in the batching position, therefore you pronounce it as an L. I'll explain where it can be in the batching position and still be an R. Now, batchim sound changes when followed by a vowel. Now, when a batchim is followed by a vowel due to a following syllable starting with a silent or empty consonant, the final consonant moves on to the next syllable. Now, if we look at this right here, we have example, like the word takta. Now, notice how I've pronounced this. In Swahili, especially, it's a good time to talk about Swahili. In Swahili, we don't like it when two consonants follow each other. We tend to like adding like what's it called? A vowel sound in the middle of those. Like Peter becomes Petero. Peter. You see, like in English, like American English, the name Peter is like it's like a T and an R follow each other, right next to each other. But then in Swahili becomes more like Petero. We don't like it in proper Swahili. And in many Bantu languages, I guess it's not good when two consonants follow each other. In Korean, however, when you have a situation like that, a consonant like, for example, this G here is what we call it's not aspirated. What does that mean? If we talk about the word unaspirated, the best example for the word is like ship. Like in English, when you say ship as in meli, think about it. You all release like a very tiny sound, like breath. It's like a very, very tiny sound after the P. Like when you say ship, right? Even for me, when I say ship, there's a P at the end of the P. Now, if we say nearly as a word with nearly the same pronunciation in Korean, it would not have aspiration. Like this one becomes ship. After that P sound, you cut off the, what's it called? The air coming out of your mouth. So it becomes ship, not ship. Okay. Now, same way here. When you have these consonants, these, for example, verbs. Like for example, here you have chakta. It's not chagada, chakta, right? You don't really do the g sound like as a g. Chagada, chakta. It's chakta. But now let's say when we move chakta into informal polite form, what do I mean by in basic form and informal polite form? In basic form, we cannot use words in basic form. Like, for example, the Swahili word to eat, the basic form for to eat is kula. Like, what does kula mean? You have to conjugate it to use it. Ah, ninakula, tunakula, anakula, wanakula, tulikula. tukule, right? You have to conjugate kula into many different forms. Therefore, in same thing in Korean, chakta is basic form. Nobody speaks like that. Oh, that house, chakta. That house, chakta means small, by the way, ndogo kwa Kiswahili. Chakta means small. So that house, chakta. No, you have to use chagayo. Now, we have this G here. Now, in chagayo, it's easy. You have the J, A, and then the G finally moves to where the silent is, and then becomes like that. It becomes chagayo, and it's not jagayo, even though I've written that here. It's not jagayo, chagayo. Why is it chagayo anyway? Why don't we say jagayo with a J? I keep saying chagayo, yet this is a J. I taught you guys last time that that is a J. Anyway, you can even text the answer. Why am I pronouncing this as chagayo, not jagayo? Yeah. Anyone, or am I speaking to myself? I might be speaking to myself here, yo. Why am I pronouncing this word as chagaya, not jagaya? If you don't know, you can also say you don't know, that I can know at least.
I don't know.
Gabby does not. Gabby's like, okay, you many pita. Okay. Now, we talked about the initial consonant rule. Now, J is one of those initial letters where the initial consonant rule would apply. You have G, D, B, and J. Okay, let's see. Yes, when J is this at the beginning? No. Actually, it's the other way around. When J, no. It's not even like that. Let me say this. When you have this sound at the beginning of a word, it takes on a more emphasized sound. So it's pronounced more as a ch than a j. So for example, here we have chakta. It's spelled with a j, yet I'm pronouncing it with a ch sound. So it becomes chakta because it takes on it. You have to follow the initial consonant rule for this one. But mokta doesn't have a more emphasized sound, so it's just mokta, mogoyo, chakta, chagayo. I'm not saying jagda. I'm not saying jagayo. I'm saying chakta, chagayo, even though this is a j. Now let's look at special Batchim pronunciation rules. You have the special Batchim pronunciation rules. What do you call a kyop Batchim? What's a kyop Batchim? Sometimes in Korean you have words with like two Batchims, a double final Batchim, right? Like an L and a G, L and a H, B, S, N, J, and H. Now what happens here is if you have a word like this one here, you have the silent I, L, G, D, A, right? Now what happens when you get here? Do you pronounce this as ilgda? Ilgda. Oh my god, that sounds like a lot of work. You have an L and a G, and these two here are competing for space. You can only pronounce one of them actually. In that case, you pronounce the one that comes first in the Korean alphabet list. Now you guys don't have time to memorize that, but I'll just keep it simple. Over time, you guys will just learn automatically how these words are pronounced. But here, for example, in this one, the G, actually any word that competes with G always loses because G is the very first consonant in Korean. So L and G or G when, so you don't pronounce this as ilgda, it's ikta with a G. Ikta. Right here, this is how we write chicken in Korean. We don't say taerg, no taerg. I want some taerg kokok. No, it's tak. The L becomes silent. Why? The two are competing for space. You cannot pronounce both of them and leave the language sounding beautiful. It sounds like something else. So it becomes tak. This becomes ikta. Here you have Sirhda. Now, man, can you pronounce all of these? It can't be shirta. That doesn't even work. So it becomes shirta. Here it becomes manta. Which one has won? The N. The H always loses in Korean because it's the very last consonant in Korean. G is the first one, H is the last one. So wherever H is trying to compete for space in a double consonant, H always loses. Always. Because it's the very last letter in the Korean consonant list. G is the very first one. So G always wins. So shilta, manta. Here, of course, we drop the S becomes silent. So it's not caps. Oh, beyakini ngapi. Cap is bay by the way. You don't pronounce this as caps. It's cap. 값이 올라갔어. 값이가 내려갔어. 값이가. 값이 내려갔어. 올라갔어. Okay, opta. This is opta. The S also still becomes silent. Why add the alphabet at the end if they're supposed to be silent? What's the essence? Now, these words, even if they're silent, they end up being pronounced. They're only silent when it comes to basic form. What does that mean? What does that mean? What do I mean? What is this guy talking about when he's talking about basic form? Let's look at this. Let's go to our keyboard. Now, you have the word ikta, which means to read. Now, ikta means to read. But as I've said and as I will keep saying, you cannot use these words in basic form. Now, ikta, in the Swahili equivalent of ikta would be soma. Soma has meaning as a command, but beyond that, it has no meaning. Soma needs to be conjugated to some, wanasoma, anasoma, tulisoma. you need to conjugate ikta for it to be usable, for it to make sense to somebody. Now, ikta, first conjugation, most basic conjugation becomes g, o, yo. Now, in this case, we do not pronounce the L. It becomes silent. It's competing for space with G. Obviously, G wins. But in this case, we can pronounce the L. It becomes irgoyo. Can anybody kind of tell me why they think that is? Look at these two words. This is the same word in basic form and formal polite form. In one, we cannot pronounce the L. In the other one, we pronounce the L. This becomes irgo. You guys see this silent right here. Sharon, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I can say like the other one is in a casual way and then the other one is formal.
Not necessarily.
Uh-huh.
Here's how this works. This one, okay, let me see the comments first. Because of the vowel, yeah, kind of. This G can finally move to where the silent is, right? This O looking thing is silent. If realistically it moves and takes on this position when pronouncing, these two are no longer competing for space. This one therefore becomes irgoyo. Do you guys see what happened there? E kitu inakaa kama O ni nini? Inatoa sauti gani? Sharon, inatoa sauti gani?
L,
Hii inakaa
yeah,
kama hii hapa, hii inakaa kama zero. Inatoa sauti gani?
L, A,
It-
O.
Actually, it has no sound.
Oh, so it's
It has
ilgeo.
no sound. If it has no sound, it means
Uh-huh.
it has no sound. Alafu hii next to it inatoa sauti. Sasa hiyo L ama O. So the O sound.
Oh,
Let's
oh.
see what is some. It's silent. Yes, it is silent. Audrey, in some cases, it produces the ng sound, the ng sound, but in this case, it's not. It's silent. Anybody tell me why it is silent? Let me just keep it simple. It is silent because it precedes a vowel within this syllabic block. Inakuja before vowel. Oh, hii inakaa kama mtu ametoa mkono yake hivi. How do I even explain this? This one. So this one is the vowel here, but this one has no sound value. Why is my name written in a single N instead of a double N? You can actually write it with a double N, Anita. You can, but you don't need to. Like your name is written like this, a single N or a double N. Because N sound, it doesn't really matter. In English, you pronounce your name Anita. In Korean, Anita. The N sound is not the most radical sound change in Korean or English. Therefore, in English, sometimes even people write your name with single N, sometimes with a double N. So in Korean, they just recognize that with a single N is it's okay, but you can't do it with two N's. Nobody minds. Now, ilgoyo. Why does it become ilgoyo? This G can finally replace this silent here. So when we pronounce this, we can actually pronounce it. This is pronounced like this. It'll go yo. Since it can be pronounced like this, it moves and the L and G are not competing for space. But the spelling, proper spelling, Yorubon, look at this. Proper spelling yake ni hapa. The only reason why we pronounce those two though is due this G. It's because the only reason we can pronounce this two is because this G can finally come here and take the place of the silent consonant, the empty consonant. Realistically though, this is how we pronounce this word. In basic form, we have to pronounce it ikta because the G has nowhere to go. After the G, it's another consonant. How many consonants are you going to pronounce in one fell swoop? It's like ilgda. Those are too many consonants following each other. Do I make sense? Or am I confusing you? Am I making sense? So they can only be pronounced. Yes, they can only be pronounced when a silent is placed after them. Exactly. Okay. Yes, Ashley, exactly. Maja. So let's go back here. That's why we have these ones. Okay, so here it's anta. You have to pick one of these two. The N wins because it's higher above the list. And manta, manayo. The H becomes silent because the N is above the list. And plus H is the last one. H can't compete. So wherever you have H, it always becomes silent when it's competing for space as a double consonant. Now, these are other places where H disappears, like in Chuayo. How do you say something is good? Oh, mna make plans. Oh, situkutane. Like some of you guys have maybe Namja Chingu. And today, the Namja Chingu is like, so let's meet. You know what? You guys know what Namja Chingu is, right? Today is Valentine's, by the way. I don't mean to make people sad. Okay. No. So today's Namja Chingu is a boyfriend. So some of you maybe have a boyfriend. And then the boyfriend is like, okay, let's meet at what's a nice place in the city, Sana? Some people will go to like Kilimanjaro and get like a sinia. Some people are like, oh, you know what, let's eat together. That's the idea of romance. Some people are like, let's go to the movies, right? So the Namja Chingu is like, let's go watch a movie. And then you're like, oh, poa. And so in Korean, you can say chua. Oh, kiko chua. Ah, chua. Oteo chua. Chua. That's good. Iko poa. Sa, chua, iko poa. No, not in Korean. Nobody says chuayo. Oh my God. That sounded like a lot of work. The H doesn't, it's never pronounced. Never. It becomes silent. Nobody says chuayo. It's chuayo. Chuayo. The H becomes silent, but when you're ukiandika, ukosa kuandika hii, nobody will understand what you're doing. Uh, and it's not like in a bad way. So the H has to appear, but it is silent. Chuaya. Or like when a teacher, usually when I mark assignments for students in the regular classes, I'll write chuaya when they do very well, when they do well. Or I'll write something like chutta, good, chuaya, good, chutta, good. And then here, how do you say okay, sawa in Swahili? Kwenchanayo or kenchanayo. You can say kwenchanayo or kenchanayo. In modern Korean, most people just say kenchanayo. But here, note the H is right here. Ina compete for space na N. Gani ndo itashinda? Obviously, the N will win. Whenever H is involved with literally any other consonant, it always loses. Why? G is the very first letter in the Korean consonant list. Like when you in English or in Latin script, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like what? I, J, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Love.
J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Nivo. Okay. It's alphabet. No, guy. What? Your pattern I did. Anyway, in the Korean alphabet, acha tu tuongelee Korea. In the Korean alphabet, you have G is the very first consonant and H is the last one. Therefore, when H competes with any other consonant, like here in Kanchana with the N and H, the H becomes eliminated. So N imekuja hapa ika-eliminate hii H. Ikakuja mpaka ika-replace hii silent hapa ndo ikakuwa Quenchanayo ama Kenchanayo. You can pronounce this Quenchanayo, Kenchanayo. Most people say Kenchanayo though. Nobody says Quenchanayo. I had one teacher who used to say Quenchanayo. Quenchanta. She likes saying that a lot, but no. Most people say Kenchanayo. Now, when H appears in the Batchim before G, D, B, and J, this causes them to become aspirated. What does that mean? Like, for example, here, otoke. And I'm sure you guys, when you watch Korean dramas, this word has appeared. Oh, how? Otoke. I used to have this friend who used to say otoke a lot when we were doing calculus. Calculus was tough. So it was a proper word for everything. Anyway, no struggles. So you have o, to, and then you have this H here that precedes the G. Now think of it this way. Because H is such a weak consonant in Korean, usually it disappears. And when it disappears, or for example, let's say when we merge the H and the G, it forms like a K sound. Am I making sense? Let me come back here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Whenever you have H is a very weak consonant in Korean. So H, you add it to G, it produces like a K sound. And then H added to literally D, it produces a T sound. What's the next one? H added to B produces a P sound. And then what's the last one? Give me 1 second. I just need to type this here first. Then H added to J gives it a chu sound. H plus J gives it a chu sound. Now, what does this all mean? Let's go back here. Now, right here, it forces them to become aspirated. Now, you guys see this? Okay. So when you have H plus G becomes K, H plus D becomes T, H plus B becomes P, H plus J becomes Ch. The Ch sound. Okay, SP gets it. Okay, I hope everyone understands. So H is in the patching position plus D, T. It becomes krotamyon when you're pronouncing, but the spelling remains like this. This is the spelling, this is the pronunciation in brackets. Now, the L, R, L sound rules. At the beginning of a syllable, L is pronounced as R, like as in, this is Namyon. This is not Ramyon, this is not Lamyon, this is more like a sound in between. But for now, let's just say Ramyon. But it's not R. It's Namyon. It's not Lamyon, it's not Ramyon, it's Namyon. A rolled L is what I would say. At the end of a syllable, L is pronounced as this is pronounced as L. See, kuna syllabic block inapronounciwa kama L. This has a syllabic block. There are no other silent letters after it. And then when two L's appear together, they're pronounced as L, like talaya. Talaya. Okay. becomes talayo. Like, for example, if you want to write ugali in Korean, if you want to write ugali with the Korean script, you have to write ugali. That appears as ugali. But if you write it like this, for example, if you write it like this is ugari. Although some people do pronounce it like that, but it's not their wanting. This is how their language is shaped. Proper way, ugali. If you write it like this with a single R/L, it becomes Ugari. Am I making sense, Yoruba? Yeah. Another example is Ashley's name. Ashley's name would be written Ashuli. But if we remove one L, it would be Ashri, not Ashuli. It would be Ashuri, not Ashley. This is Ashley because there are two L. This is Ashuri because there's a single one. We could also alternatively, if we write it like this, Uga silent E, this is still Ugari because this L moves positions and it will finally be here when we pronounce it. It has a silent, and if the L can move, it will move. If the L moves and it moves from this syllabic block, it means it's no longer pronounced as an L, it will be pronounced as an R. Now, where consonant assimilation. Now, when a batchim is followed by certain consonants, they merge to form a strong double consonant. G plus G form to becomes double G, like K. So hakyo, patta, pat. But this one is something you can learn in any class. You'll learn this over time. This is patta. It's not pada. It's patta. This is mok. This part is easy. What we need is the extended sound rules. When a final consonant is followed by a vowel or as the initial sound of the next syllable, the silent as the initial sound of the next syllable, the final consonant carries over. We did this before. Like this is hangugo, hanguk, and this G moves where the silent is. Si kila mtu aliona venye tulifanya kwenye ingine. Everybody saw what we did before. This G can move to where the silent is, so it will move. It will move to where the silent is. That's basically what this rule is saying. So it becomes hangugo. It's not pronounced as Ikorea. Hangugo is the Korean language. All means language. The way we say in Swahili and in very many of the Bantu languages, you start with ki, Kiswahili, Kiingereza, Kimasai, ki everything. So in Korean, they put a suffix instead of a prefix. In Swahili, we put a prefix to mean language. So ki, Swahili, Kiingereza, what am I not thinking? Ki China, ki Korea. But in Korean, oh. So Swahili language would be Swahili oh. Korean language, Hanguk oh. But pronounced properly, Hangugo, Swahilio, Chungugo, Yongo. Okay. Inasoma pamoja. This G moves to where the silent is, becomes Hangugo. Mashisoyo. This double S moves to where the silent is, becomes Mashisoyo. Pronounced like this, written like this. Ikta, we've done this actually. I added this as an example above, but we didn't need to. Ikta, Ilgoyo. This G moved here, but in basic form, Ikta. We only pronounce the G. In this form, the G moves to where the silent is ilgoy. So now here we have a summary of all these rules. K, kyuk, tigut, yup, and tiut are pronounced harder. So it becomes K, T, P, and T, and at the beginning of a syllable. L is pronounced as an R at the beginning of the syllable and L at the end. And then you have the Batchim and the final consonants. Most Batchim are not aspirated and may be shortened or silent. Some consonants change pronunciation. E.g., S, double S, J, Ch, and T have a T. Batchim plus vowel. If a batchim is followed by a vowel, it moves on to that syllable. If it has space to move, it will move. Only one of the two consonants is pronounced in most cases. Like here, what is this? To keep it simple, this one just says, if you have two double consonants, here, like in the case of Victor, you only pronounce one of them. Like if it's a G, you only pronounce the G. You pronounce the one that takes priority. And then H is silent in very many instances. Why? It's the very last letter in the Korean consonant list. So it's very weak. And H causes aspiration and followed by G, D, P, and J. And then you have Batchim plus base consonants. Certain combinations result in double consonants. Like pat. This is pat. Ta. And then you have extended sound rules. Final consonants move over to the next syllable if followed by a vowel. This is a summary. And that is it for today. It's been an hour. That is it for today.